हरि ओम। ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः। ओम श्री हिरण्यगर्भाय नमः। ओम श्री महाविष्णवे नमः। ओम श्री महादेवाय नमः। ओम श्री महादुर्गाये नमः। ओम श्री राम रामाय नमः। ओम श्री सद्गुरवे नमः। ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांतिः। ओम गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। भवानी शंकरो वन्दे श्रद्धा विश्वासरूपिणो याभ्यां विना न पश्यन्ति सिद्धाः स्वान्तस्तमीश्वरम्। शंकरं शंकराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानामालयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। शङ्करं परमानन्दं ब्रह्मनिष्ठं यतीश्वरं भाष्यभ्रान्तिहरं वन्दे शुद्धज्ञानैकबोधकम्। ॐ नमः शिवाय 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 ॐ नमः शिवाय। नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव। हरि ओम हरि ओम। We'll begin with the Shanti mantra. Om Apyayantu Mamangani Vak Pranaschakshushrotramatho Balamindriyani Cha Sarvani Sarvam Brahmopanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Ma Brahma Nirakarot अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरि ओम. We shall chant the mantra from the second section. Sadeva Somyedamagra Asit Ekamevadvitiyam Tadhaika Ahuhu Asadeva Idamagra Asit Ekamevadvitiyam Tasmadasatah Sajjayata. कुतस्तु खलु सौम्य एवं स्यादिति होवाच कथम असतः सज्जायेतेति सत्वेव सौम्येदमग्र आसीत् एकमेवाद्वितीयम्. हरि ओम. So Shvetaketu surrenders to his own father and requests him to teach him that Brahma Vidya, teach him, give him that knowledge of that Brahma, having known which everything becomes known. I mean, nothing remains to be known. That is the ultimate knowledge. So the teacher now begins from the second section. He says in the beginning there was only Sat. Sadeva Soumya Idam Agra Asit. Before this world came into existence, means before the world presented itself in different names, forms and activities, the world was in the beginning only as Sat. No names, no forms, no activities, only Sat. Just as before all the ornaments are created, they were all as gold. They were not non-existent, but they were existing as gold. Similarly, this world was not non-existent. It existed as Sat. So Sad eva Soumya idam agrasit ekam eva advitiyam, and that Sat was ekam, one, eva, one alone, advitiyam, non-dual, nothing beside that Sat, one without a second. So this is the Siddhanta which the Upanishad conveys. This is the truth. But there are people, there are thinkers who don't accept the teachings of the Vedas, they don't accept the teachings of the Upanishads. They may not have that faith in the Upanishad, and they convey their own understanding of this world. So what they convey is only through their perception and their inference. Also, they have their own hypotheses and theories. Like modern scientists, they also have various theories about this world and hypotheses about this world. So there are those who think that in the beginning there was nothing. And that view is presented first here. कि तद् एक आहुः असदेव agre asit ekameva dvitiyam. There are those nihilist Buddhists who say that in the beginning, before this world which is seen now, there was non-existent. Therefore, even now the world is non-existent. So they call the world mithya. They call the world as non-existent. This is the view of the Buddhist, not of Vedanta. Vedanta doesn't call the world mithya. So this view is negated by Vedanta. Not only the view of those who think that in the beginning there was only Asat, but even other views which are presented by different philosophies, different philosophers like Vaisheshik, Nyaya, Sankhya, Yoga, Purva Mimamsa, Jainism, Buddhism, Charvak, and also modern science and so many other faiths and religions. So all these views which are contradictory to what the Upanishads are conveying, which are not in tune to what the Upanishads are conveying, are considered false, not right. They have their flaws. They have logical flaws. They have experiential flaws. They have a contradiction with the Upanishads. Therefore, they are all rejected as not true. And Adi Shankaracharya ji, in his Bhashya, he presents the teachings of the Upanishad very logically, systematically, and he also negates all that is not in tune with the Upanishads through his systematic, rational, logical presentation. Shankaracharya ji rejects all that is not in tune with the Upanishads. So here in the next mantra, the teacher himself rejects by saying that it is completely illogical and there are no examples to convey that from non-existent something has come into existence. This we don't see happening in this world. There are no examples. Means we don't see that there is no clay and suddenly the pot comes into existence. From absence, something coming is not at all rational, and also there are no examples to convey this. So the teacher says, Kutastu khalo saumya evam syat iti hovacha katham asatah sajjayet iti. So the teacher says that, oh Saumya, oh my dear son, how is it possible for something to come into existence from nothing? Then there will not be any logic, there will not be any system, there will not be any what you call cause and effect seen in this world. Everything will be totally haphazard. But such thing we don't see in this world. Everything functions with definite purpose, with system, with logic. So it is completely illogical, irrational to consider that in the beginning there was only asat, non-existent. So in the beginning, if there was non-existent, they say that even now it is non-existent only, which is not acceptable. Therefore, the teacher again presents the Siddhanta of the Upanishad saying that Satveva Soumya, कि हे Soumya, Sat alone, idam agra asit, was there before all this. Ekam eva advitiyam, and that Sat was Ekam eva advitiyam, means other than Sat, nothing was there. Not that something was there unmanifest or something else was there, nothing, only Sat alone. And even now, everything is Sat alone. But even when the Upanishad says this, then there is a problem. One question comes that if Sat alone was there and everything has come from Sat, and that Sat is also indicated as that which is free from all changes, which is free from all parts, which is completely peaceful, free from all impurities, which is divine, then how anything can come from this Sat also? And that is the question which is raised in the commentary itself. Shankaracharya himself raises. And that is the beauty of Shankaracharya's commentary, his Bhashya, that he raises all questions which might come into our mind, all possible questions which might come in the mind of intelligent seekers. Because when we think logically, rationally, intelligently, and if something doesn't fit in properly, then the question comes. Those who don't think, no question comes, so that is not a problem for them. But if you don't think, you don't understand also. But if we think, then questions arise. And if there are questions which are not answered properly, then we cannot proceed on our path. Because Vedanta is a path of understanding. The more you understand, the more you progress. And 100% understanding is 100% progress, means with that 100% understanding, we become free of all our bondage. So doubt should not remain in our mind. Then we are not progressing. The purpose of Mananam is to clarify all our doubts and gain that 100% conviction and understanding that I am Brahma. So this doubt is raised. So Shankaracharya ji, he replies to this doubt. So let us read what he says. He says, Naisha doshaha. He says this is not a defect. This is not some flaw in Vedanta. This is not a defect. And he gives example here, which has to be understood properly. He says, Rajvadi avayavebhyah sarpadi sanstanavat buddhi parikalpitebhyah sad avayavebhyo vikara sanstana upapattehe. He gives example of a rope and snake. Now this example has to be understood properly. He says that just as a rope is there and one imagines a snake, so the snake is imagined in our mind. We imagine a snake in the mind and one sees it in the rope. Though the rope doesn't have any form, the rope doesn't have any parts, it is completely one rope only. In that one rope, one sees the snake imagined by the mind, buddhi. In the same way, imagined by the mind, by the buddhi, the world is presented in front of us. Now, this has to be properly comprehended. Imagined by whom? Buddhi parikalpitena, Shankaracharya says. Now see, the sequence of creation is indicated in our Upanishad. That Supreme Brahma alone is there in the beginning, before all this creation. Then that from that Supreme Brahma alone, the Samashti Buddhi and Samashti Mana and Samashti Ahankar and Samashti Prana manifest by the power of that Brahma alone, and Hiranyagarbha is born. And Hiranyagarbha is one alone. Nobody else is there, nothing else is there. Hiranyagarbha alone is there. And Hiranyagarbha thereafter gives birth to Vaishvanara or Prajapati. And Prajapati further creates the world. He creates the bodies of the Devatas. He creates the bodies of the Vanaspati, the plants and trees. And he creates the bodies of the animal, birds, and human beings. So, we see this world created by Hiranyagarbha, created by Vaishvanara. And how did they create? They create out of their own thinking, based on the world which was existing before. They brought the whole world in their mind, and according to that world of their mind, they created this world. Now see, let me give some example. See, when we see something in this world, we see that object. For example, this pot is there. We see this pot which is already there, present in the world. So the pot is already there, and we see it. And through our senses, we see the pot, and through our buddhi, we understand the pot. We give some name to that pot or to this object. So the object is already there, which is seen by us, and we understand those objects. For example, we go to the pot maker and we see different items made there. The pots are there, the bricks are there, the tiles are there. So we see them and we experience them. So all the tiles, all the bricks, all of them have come from the clay only. So the clay and the tiles and bricks, they have that cause and effect relationship. So the clay is the upadan karan of the tiles, bricks, pots, etc. But the pot maker is the nimitta karan of the tiles, bricks, pot, etc. Without the pot maker, the clay will not get converted into the different effects. Okay. Now, if we extend this to the Sat, then Sat is presented not only as the Upadan Karan of this world, but Sat is also the Nimitta Karan of this world. Sat is also the Nimitta Karan of this world. So from that Sat alone, Hiranyagarbha came into existence. And from that Sat, from Hiranyagarbha, Vaishvanara came into existence. So this Vaishvanara creates the world in all its complexities. So Vaishvanara is like the pot maker. Vaishvanara, though before him Hiranyagarbha created Vaishvanara, and Vaishvanara then further creates the Devatas, the Sharira of Devatas, Vanaspatis, and all creatures. So Vaishvanara is like the Nimitta Karan of this world. So when Vaishvanara is born, the world is not there, no other beings are there, no other objects are there. So what does Vaishvanara do? He meditates and brings to his mind the world as it was in the previous kalpa, in the previous day of Hiranyagarbha. He brings that world to his mind, and based on the world which is there in his mind, he creates that world out of that Sat only, means out of himself. He is also an expression of Sat. So out of himself, he creates this world. This is also very beautifully presented in the famous what? Purusha Suktam, in the famous Suktam, Purusha Suktam. The entire creation process is presented there. That Vaishvanara, he sacrifices himself to become this world. So how does he create this world? He brings to his mind the entire world as it was before, and as per that, as per the world which is there, which he brings in his mind, he creates that world out of that Sat. I hope you are understanding. Now let me give you an example to make it more clear. So I have something in my mind which I will draw on this. That which is there, something in my mind is already there. I can see it. I can see it, but you cannot see it. I can see it. So that which is there in my mind, using the material of this computer, I create it. Can you see? It's a smiley face. So this smiley was there in my mind, and taking the material of this computer, this this what is it called? I presented this smiley in the same way, and once it is presented, you can see it. You cannot produce it here, but what is produced you can see. If this is understood, that Vaishvanara brings the entire world as it was there before iPad. Vaishvanara brings the world as it was there before in his mind. Yatha purvam akalpitam, like that the Upanishad says. The Akash, Vayu, Agni, Jal, Prithvi, the Devatas, the Rishis, the trees, the birds, the animals, human beings, and he brings that in his buddhi, and when it comes to his buddhi, then the Pancha Mahabhut gets converted into those objects. And once they get converted, we are able to see. Now see, Shankaracharyaji's bhashya and all are very sublime. They are not so simplistic. They're extremely sublime and extremely powerful, which we have to comprehend properly. So see, Vaishvanara, the way Vaishvanara experiences this world, and the way I as a jiva experiences this world, there is a difference. What is the difference? Vaishvanara brings the world to his mind, which is not there, and then he presents that world. Out of that sat only. Or if Vaishvanara is difficult to comprehend, let us take the example of this pot maker. You go to the pot maker and you see the clay, lump of clay there, and you see the pot maker. And there are no other items there. There are no pots, there are no bricks, there are no tiles, which you can see. But the pot maker has got all this item in his mind. He has the tiles, he has the bricks, he has the pots in his mind. So suppose he wants to make this pot. This pot is, though it is not outside, it is already there in his mind. The shape and the name of this pot is there in his mind. And then he just molds the clay to manifest the thing which is there in his mind in the outer world. And once it is manifested, we are able to see it. Jiva doesn't have the capacity to manifest anything in this world. Therefore, even if we try to do it as Vaishvanara is doing, Suppose that is example which Shankaracharya has taken. A rope is there, and we bring a snake to our mind. Then we see that rope as a snake. But actually, the snake will not happen there. Actually, the rope will not get converted into snake. The rope will remain rope only. So what I imagine as snake will only be in my mind. It will not get manifested in the world outside. Therefore, the snake imagined in my mind is mithya, because it doesn't have a reality outside. But Vaishvanara, he brings the world in his mind and he manifests that world as though outside. And the world manifested by Vaishvanara is not mithya, is not false, but it is the expression of Sat. And this Bhagavan Shankaracharya brings it very beautifully in his Bhashya. Because with this example of Rajju and Sarpa, people may mistake. They may think that, oh, the world is mithya. And that is what many people, even Vedantis, they have this wrong notion that the world is mithya. And that exactly same question Bhagavan himself raises, Shankaracharya ji raises. He says, oh, if you are saying everything is buddhi parikalpitena, as is a kalpana of the buddhi, not our buddhi, Vaishvanara's buddhi. If everything is buddhi parikalpitena, he says, asad eva tarhi sarvam yad gruhyate rajjuriva sarpadi akarena. Then everything must be asat only. Everything must be mithya only. Shankaracharya says, no. No. He says, no. Just because I gave this example very hesitatingly, but don't misunderstand this example. He says, na. Sat eva dvaita bhedena anyatha gruhyamanatva. He says everything is sat only. It is seen differently. It is presented differently. But it is sat only. Just like clay only is presented as pot. But just because it is presented as pot, the pot is not mithya, the clay is not mithya. So similarly, Sat alone is presented as this world. So Sat eva dvaita bhedena anyatha grihyamanatvat na asatvam. If he says it is not asat, na asatvam kasyachit kvachita. He said nothing is asat in this world. Nothing is asat. It is not asat. So this has to be understood properly. Then there will be good. Everything will be clear. So Shankaracharya further says, he has said that ki naisha doshaha rajvadi avayavebhyo sarpadi sanstanavat buddhi parikalpitebhyah sad avayavebhyah sad avayavebhyah vikara sanstanavapattehe vacharambanam vikaro nama deyam mrittiketteva satyam evam sadeva satyam iti shrutehe ekameva advitiyam paramartha ta idam buddhi kalepi. So he says, even when it is seen as different, idam, when we see this world as idam, even then it is one Sat alone, free from all duality, free from all differences. It is one Sat alone. Hmm. So that Sat itself is the Upadan Karan, means the material of this world, and that Sat itself, as Hiranyagarbha, as Vaishvanara, becomes the Nimitta Karan of this world and presents this world out of itself. Not as an illusion, but out of itself. Hmm. Asat means non-existent. Asatyam means changing existence. Asat here, when it is said asat, asat means non-existent, that which doesn't exist at all. Asatyam or anritam means changing existence. So after presenting this, now in the next mantra, see, you keep listening and thinking, it will become more and more clear. In one class itself, everything cannot be presented, but slowly things will become more and more clear. So, after saying this, that Sat alone was there in the beginning, and now that Sat alone is presenting in front of us as this world, the sequence in which this world came into existence is being now conveyed here in this following mantra. See, the whole scheme of this Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, this particular chapter has to be understood. So it was said that in the beginning only Sat was there. Then the whole world came into existence. And again it merges back into Sat only. So from this world and through this Karya Karana Sambandha, that Sat is pointed out to us. And then further the Upanishad will point out our own self as Sat. And thus it will point out the identity of Atma and Brahma. This Atma is also Sat, that Brahma is also Sat, and this whole world is also Sat. So now from the following mantra, the creation is pointed out how from this Sat, this whole world came into existence. So how that Sat itself is the Upadan Karan and the Nimitta Karan of this world will be seen in detail in these mantras further. So let us chant mantra number 3. Tad aikshata bahushyam praja yeti tattejo ashrajata tatteja aikshanta tatteja aikshata bahushyam praja yeti tad apo ashrajata tasmad atra kvacha shochati shvedate va purushasya purushah tejasa eva tad adhyapo jayante. Again, tad aikshata bahusyam praja yeti tad tejo ashrujata tad teja aikshata bahusyam praja yeti tad apo ashrujata tasmad yatra kvacha shochati shvedate va purushas tejasah eva tat adhyapo jayante. So here the teacher says, Ki tad aikshata. So it was said that in the beginning only Sat was there before this creation. only Sat was there. Then how this creation came into existence? He says that Tat Aikshata, that Sat he saw. First, I will give you the literal translation of this. So that Sat saw, Tad Aikshata. What did he see? Bahusyam prajayeti, that let me become many. I will become many. And thinking and seeing in this way, Tat Tejo Ashrujata, he created Teja. Teja means heat or fire. Then Tat Teja Aikshata, then that Teja he saw. What did he see? Ki Bahusyam Prajayeti, let me become many. And Tad Apo Ashrujata, then he created water. And therefore, Tasma, therefore, Yatra Kocha Shochati, even now, when we are very agitated, when we are angry, when we worry, our whole body heats up and we perspire. So from heat only, that water comes. So Tasmad Yatra Kvacha Shochati Shvedate Va Purushaha. So he perspires. So Tejasa Eva Tat Adhyapo Jayante. So from that Tej only, this water, it comes. So now again, Shankaracharya in his commentary, he writes. So let us read the commentary. Ki tad sad aikshata iksham darshanam kritavata. So that sat he thought, he saw. See here, the teacher doesn't use all these terms like Hiranyagarbha, Vaishvanara, because behind Hiranyagarbha also that same Sat is there. In that Vaishvanara also Sat is there. So he just presents everything as Sat only, because that is the main message which has to be conveyed. That in the beginning Sat alone was there, and from that Sat alone everything has come, and everything is Sat only. So at every step, Sat alone is there. So that Sat thought or Sat saw, we can understand it as Vaishvanara, he thought or he saw. See again, let me go through the sequence of creation as mentioned in our Shastra. So when the whole world goes into Pralaya, there is only Sat. Sat alone is there. In Srimad Bhagavat also, in the Chatussutri, Chatushloka Bhagavat, this alone is presented. Aham eva asam eva agre, that I alone was there in the beginning. In other Upanishads also, Atma va idagam, Atma eva idam agre asit, na anyat kinchana mishata. So in the beginning only that Sat or Atma or Brahma alone was there. And from that Brahma has got his own Shakti, as we have seen, which is also indicated as Prakriti, the Para and Apara Prakriti. So that Para Prakriti is Prana, which is the Kriya Shakti of Bhagwan. And that Apara Prakriti is the Vyakta, the material power. So from that Sat, the first to be manifested spontaneously is that Hiranyagarbha. Therefore, Hiranyagarbha is also indicated in our Shastra as Swayambhu, born by himself, born spontaneously. And this we can see from our own experience also. We are in deep sleep, or like we see someone in deep sleep, absolutely unaware of the world. There is no world, there is no I, there is no you, there is nothing. There is only Sat in deep sleep. So we are watching a person who is sound sleep, deep sleep, eyes are closed. And suddenly he opens his eyes, spontaneously. Just he wakes up. It's such a mystery actually. When we are in deep sleep, then something stirs and we just wake up. So similarly, Sat alone was there, and from that Sat alone, Hiranyagarbha was born spontaneously. It's called Swayambhu. And Hiranyagarbha has Samashti Buddhi, Samashti Mana, Samashti Ahankar, and Prana, and Pancha Tanmatra. So Hiranyagarbha alone, first being, first manifested being. He is also called Karya Brahma or Sagun Brahma or Sagun Ishvara. Hiranyagarbha is called Sagun Ishvara, but Nirakar. So Nirakar, Sagun, Ishvara, Hiranyagarbha is born. Then Hiranyagarbha is also a Jiva actually, and he is born for a purpose to manifest this world, to create this world. But his job is to just grossify the 5 tanmatras. So that grossification of the 5 tanmatras is called Panchikaranam. This Panchikaranam is given in Taittiriya Upanishad. Panchikaranam is not as it is generally revealed in other Vedanta books, which are absolutely wrong, like in Tattva Bodh and other books, which are totally wrong, not in tune with what the Upanishads are saying, and not in tune with what Shankaracharya is saying. They are like the nursery rhymes. What is taught in Tattva Bodh is like nursery rhymes. See, like little children, when they ask us how it rains, we have to give them something, stories. In my childhood, I also had heard that there are huge elephants who soak waters in their trunk from the ocean, and they sprinkle those water on earth from top, and when they move around and all, it makes so much noise, all the thundering and all happens. But as you grow, as you study science and all, you come to know that, oh, all this is just stories, just to entertain me. Doesn't make any sense. Similarly, things which are said in other texts like Tattvabodh are just nursery rhymes, stories. Panchikaranam, which is described there, is not proper, because there it is described that space is divided into half, and half is kept like that, and other half is again divided into 4 parts. But space is infinite. Half of infinity is also infinity. 1/8 of infinity is also infinity. Not only space is infinite, but even air, Vayu, is infinite. Therefore, in Gita, Bhagavan says, Vayu sarvatra go maham. He says Vayu is all pervading. So dividing space into half and then into 1/8, and mixing with other elements and all are totally like the story of elephants pouring rains. So that is not what Panchikaranam is. In Taittiriya Upanishad, from this Pancha Tanmatras, the Akash Tattva is manifested first by Hiranyagarbha, which has got only one quality, and that of sound. Then from that Akash only, Vayu is brought out. So potentially in that Tanmatras, all these 5 elements are there. So from this Tanmatras, first the Akash is manifested by Hiranyagarbha. And from Akash, then Vayu, from Vayu, Agni, from Agni, Apa, and from Apa, the Prithvi, which is said in the Taittiriya Upanishad. Etasmat atmanaha akashas sambhutah akashad vayuhu vayoragnihi agnerapah adbhya prithvi prithivya doshadayah oshadibhyonnam annat purushah. So Akash has got only one guna, that is sound. Then when from that Akash Vayu is born, Vayu has 2 qualities, sound and sparsha, touch. Then from that Vayu, Agni is manifested, which has got 3 qualities. Then from Agni, water is manifested, which has got 4 qualities. And from that water, the earth is manifested, which has got 5 qualities. So this is Panchikaranam. And with the Panchikaranam, the body of Vaishwanara, who is also called Prajapati, is created. So with the Panchakarana, Vaishwanara is born. But the world is not manifested yet. World becomes manifest through Trivrit Karanam. This Trivrit Karanam is not mentioned in Tattvabodh or any other text. It is there in the Upanishad, in this Chandogya Upanishad. These are the details. So Vaishwanara does Trivrit Karanam 1, through which he creates the bodies of the Devatas. Then Trivrit Karanam 2, and creates the bodies of all the Vanaspatis, the trees. And Trivrit Karanam 3 does the bodies of all the animals, birds, and human beings. It's very interesting, and this is revealed here in this Upanishad in detail, so that we will study more in our class, next class on Friday. Okay? So till then, you take care. Be happy, safe, peaceful, healthy. Do your work, do your sadhana. Listen to the pravachan again. Contemplate, think about it, and give up all other learning which you had before. As you grow from nursery school to KG and first standard and all, we have to give up all the nursery rhymes also. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. It's good for pre-KG and KG, etc. But as you study Vedanta further, you have to drop all false notions and false philosophies and concepts and learn the Vedanta properly. Okay? So we will meet again on Friday. Hari. Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. 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 Jaya Jaya Ram. Jaya Jaya Ram. Boliye Siya Ramachandra Bhagwan ki Jai. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.